transcripts to all those who have registered for today's call afterwards, so that you can just focus and participate and share and learn from your peers, and you don't have to worry about scrambling to write down somebody's idea or name. So again, welcome. And for today, we're going to be talking about youth in transition, but with all of our peer support calls, feel free to bring up any issues around transition. We've covered a lot during this series. We've talked about nursing home transition, guardianship, and transition from incarceration. So if you want to revisit one of those topics, we're free to do that as well. But for today, feel free to jump in. And if anybody would like to share a little bit about what you're doing for youth in transition, and if you have any questions for your peers, this would be a great spot to go ahead and share those. We thought this would be also an interesting call in light of the new funding that had come out. That is a partnership with VR and SILS and education. So I'm also curious, as folks are sharing, if you know if your state has applied for that funding and what you're planning on doing. So who would bravely go where no person has gone before on this call and start us off talking about youth in transition and what you're doing?
I would be delighted, Mary.
Thank you.
So, for those who don't know, I'm Kayla Robertson. I'm a Youth IL coordinator in St. George, Utah. I run the transitions program that we have. We call it TAPS. And we're a little unique because it's different than the pre-ETS program that most people use, in that we hire young adults to teach the classes in the special education rooms at the high schools. We focus a lot on workplace skills and life skills, and I hold staff meetings so that the TAPS mentors is the term we use for them, can be able to have a place that they can ask me questions, that they can talk to other mentors to see what they're doing in their respective schools. And we try to tailor it to what the school has asked us to incorporate into our curriculum. Now, we partner a lot with VR in terms of how we do employment. I get referrals sometimes from VR of who would be interested in teaching at this position, as well as I've had them come as guest speakers for our program. But we really, it's just incredible to see these young adults really rise to the occasion. And so I would say that one of the questions I have for my peers is, how are you able to find teachers for your program? And I know that pre-ETS, you hire somebody to be ACRE certified, or there's other things and requirements that come with the grant. But if you're hiring teachers, what are things that you look for, and where do you look for them?
Ooh, great question. Kayla both started us off and shared a good question. Does anybody want to answer? How are you finding teachers for your programs? How do you train them? Yeah, Shannon.
Does anybody hire teachers to do this? Like, that was my question. Because I was the independent living advocate, and then they're like, hey, we got a grant, you're a teacher now. Here's a curriculum we bought. Awesome. Okay. So then I just kind of like, I've done training before, so I felt okay about it. But it was also like, wait, did you hire teachers, Kayla?
Yes, I do an interview process with them. So when I get a referral from whether one of the main ways I get teachers is through the local colleges or universities in our areas, as well as through VR. So when I get a referral, I'll call the person up and say, hey, can you come in for an interview? I'll ask them their interests. I'll ask them certain questions about how they do conflict resolution, how do they communicate, what are things that interest them about teaching, and have they had any teaching experience. And then depending on what the feedback is I get from them, then I will hire them on and give them new paperwork. And then I do a series of days where I give them more information, because there's a lot of details that go into my program to make sure they're organized. And then we do an orientation meeting at the beginning of the school year so that they know what their expectations are and how to get in touch with me if they need to. And then we start on teaching in September. So that's kind of how it rolls.
This
Okay.
is Mary. I think maybe I want to just ask a clarification question because I feel like maybe there is some translation lost in translation. So Kayla is talking about like facilitators, not necessarily like accredited teachers, right?
They're not actual teachers,
Okay.
but they are hired on employees for our
Yeah.
RCI. So
So it's not like a staff person that you already had, or you hired a new staff person. It's different people each year doing the program, teaching it.
yeah, I'm the person that's hired on to be in charge of the program. But then my teachers that come and teach it, or the mentors, the TAPS mentors, they change every year. We have quite a high turnover.
Gotcha. And do you you said the universities, like, so are they student teaching? Do they get to count their?
Sometimes our requirements for being a TAPS mentor is that they have to have a disability, they have to have reliable transportation, and then be interested in the position. Those are the basic
I love
requirements.
that. That's cool.
So,
Thanks for sharing that, Kayla. I think that's a really interesting, one of the benefits of having them change often, and we found this at our program as well, when I used to run one, was that then they're more peer age as well. I hate to say this, but like me, for example, I used to teach our program and I am knocking 40, so I am no longer a peer.
41. Yeah. And Kayla, are you referring to like your pre-eds going into the schools?
it's a similar program, I would say. All the lessons that we have put together. My other coworker that's a youth coordinator and we've gone to all the high schools that we have been currently doing this program in, and some had curriculums that were different, some didn't even have a curriculum, so they were making it up as they were going. And so we took all their feedback of what they're looking for, what things they would like to see in a curriculum, and we wrote a curriculum together. And it's very based on giving the mentors a little bit of control as to what they teach in those different lessons. We have different parts like activities or videos and things like that, that really are focused around the lessons that the teachers at the high schools, those special education teachers, have requested, but also that we saw as a need for the transitions age. And we took bits and pieces where we read through other curriculums like the pre-eds program. We read through that a lot. We read through a few different ones that are like from Ignite and from I Belong and a bunch of different ones. And then we put our curriculum together based on that.
Thanks for the info.
Awesome. Would anybody else like to share what you're doing for youth in transition, or share for Kayla's question, how you recruit folks to come in and teach your programs or work with young people? Who would like to share? What are you doing in youth in transition?
You can go ahead, Erin.
It's been a while since I've been on one of these calls, but I'm the Deputy Director of Accessible Resources for Independence. We serve people with disabilities in Central Maryland. So we are not exactly in a rural location, which I think has helped for recruiting purposes. And traditionally with our pre-ets, we have staffed that program with people that are not actually peers in terms of age, but people with disabilities who have, gone through that transition process and certainly offer a lot of value to youth as they're moving from high school to work or to college. And we developed our program many years ago, and how we have wanted to allocate more time and resources to updating the curriculum, but certainly we just haven't had the time or capacity to focus our efforts towards that. So my main independent living staffer has led that program for the last year now, and she is on a much needed vacation right now. So you may have met her, Nikki Savoy, but the two of us team up to work with our pre-ets. And the summertime has always given us an opportunity to kind of look at where we're at, reflect, and plan for the future. So with this new grant coming up, there's some uncertainty, but I'm sure we'll learn more and go deeper on that. But it's good to see you all here today. It's been a while, so it's good to see you.
Can I ask, did your state apply for the grant, Erin?
Am I unmuted now?
Mhm.
Okay, I'm not sure where we are at on that. I know that there have been some discussions, but I'm not sure exactly where we are at in Maryland.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, Shannon, and then there was another gentleman that was going to speak as well, and I.
Oh, it was me,
There you
Dominic.
are. Okay. Go ahead, Dominic.
Yeah, hi. So I'm Dominic Munemporier. I'm a youth advocate out in Western Mass. So I'm from Stavros Center for Independent Living. We have offices. We actually have 3 different offices. So our main office is in Amherst, Mass, and then we also have offices in Springfield, which is where I'm at, and we also have a smaller office in Greenfield. I've been a youth advocate, or I've worked with youth here at Stavros going on 5 years now, and I work on a couple of different contracts. So I work on a transition to adulthood program, or TAP, and I work on PREETs as well. And so for TAP, our service area is it's most of Western Mass. So it's Hampshire, Hampton, and Franklin County. And then for PREETs, we're assigned a few schools based on what Massachusetts Rehabilitation Commission assigned us, or MRC. And we we do outreach. We go to transition fairs. The schools have them year round. So we were at Greenfield. I want to say earlier this year, if not the end of last year. We were also at a fair in Springfield, as well as Agawam, which is not too far from Springfield. And it's a great way to meet with parents and teachers in the community, and tell them about our services and what we have to offer. I've also had relationships based on past work that I did. So I did an older contract called Transition Pathway Services, which it ran from 2016 through 21. So I was working with a lot of the schools from there, and I also was a teacher briefly myself before I started doing this work. I guess I should explain the programs. So TAP is it's so the students have to be in high school, and it's really any goals that'll help them live more independently. So I work with a lot of kids studying the learner's permit, or learning how to travel train on the buses, or it could be learning how to budget, or looking at jobs, colleges, soft skills, social skills. And PREETs is more work focused. So advocacy, internships, that kind of thing.
Awesome. Thank you, Dominic. Does anybody have any questions for Dominic about any of the programs? Or like to share? Awesome. Thanks for sharing. I like that you're talking about a lot of those really individual skills. I think we think about youth in transition as like these big curriculums sometimes. But I think you're talking about doing these really individual work, like studying for driver's permits and teaching people how to ride the bus. And I think that's so important as well. Awesome. We have down here, Alan is saying, at our ILC, we offer independent living skills and work experience opportunities to help our youth transition. We get connected with the schools and teachers via our in-class workshops. It's a 4-part series that we offer to teachers. We also host a summer academy every year for our youth. Awesome. Let's see. And Greg is mentioning that they have a job placement specialist who works with those who need assistance transitioning from school to work. Wonderful. And then for those of you asking, we will go ahead and send the recordings and the transcripts to all those who've registered for the call. So all of you will receive that following this call. Wow, I think youth in transition is such a huge topic. We've covered, there's individual skills, there's working on curriculums, there's transitioning to employment, to your own house. Does anybody else want to share what you're doing at your CIL to help those young people in transition? And if anybody has applied for the new grant, what your state is interested in doing with that. Yeah, Shannon.
I'll just kind of echo in terms of going into the schools. We do that as well, teaching, that 14 to 22 through our contract with Division of Rehabilitation Services. So fast track transition is what they call that contract here. So I also do like travel training outside of that, but I've also gone to schools and done like a group with like a life skills class. We go out and take a trip from the school to a store they want to go to and then back. So that's been a successful thing to do as well. And then I know that our state is like, I think there's like 8 SILs in our state out of 22 that are participating in this like collaborative process to get this grant written. I know it's like State Board of Education and Division of Rehabilitation and the SILs are all supposed to have a hand in writing it, and everybody wants to use their language. So it's kind of been difficult. And the grant, if those of you who don't know, Disability Innovation Funding, is that what you're talking about, Mary? Yeah, okay. Want to make sure I wasn't out of the loop. But yeah, it's supposed to serve from 10 years up to 24 years. So it's a really wide range and it's a 5-year grant. So we're still in like that development stage. And I think they extended, I know they extended the application, but did it end then on the 17th or something, 15th? Do you know?
Yeah, let me pull that email up really quick and refresh myself. I'll be honest, I'm just coming back from vacation, so my brain is still bubbly. But I'll pull that up here, Shannon.
I think it's a good opportunity, but they're also looking to kind of determine a single curriculum for all the SILs to use. And that's not, in our opinion, always the best thing because every area is different. And our more rural communities are going to talk about disability and independent living and maybe have more transportation barriers than say a metro area that's a little bit more diverse and has that transportation. So SILs versus, State Board of Education wants everything like very like the same across the board. So it's kind of, I think it's coming along. They're working, our directors, boards of directors, for those 8 SILs are all like meeting weekly to figure things out. So it's kind of progressing, but still up in the air.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that though. I think that's great to know. What else? What other questions do people have for their peers about working with youth in transition? Or who would like to share what you're doing? Is there anybody out there who's just getting started, who has questions for all these folks have running programs? Well, people are thinking, I'm going to read this. Jennifer says, we have a program called Spark for youth 14 to 21 that are interested in learning more about independent living skills, self-advocacy, and pre-employment. We incorporate volunteer opportunities as well as have presenters from community agencies come in and discuss programs that might be beneficial, like banking services, housing supports, and youth summer employment. For our employment aged youth, we have been able to connect almost all of them to the summer employment program. Oh, that's really cool. Jennifer, do you mind sharing a little more about what is the summer employment program? That's really interesting.
Hi. So we are lucky enough. So I'm from NERCL. We're Northern Regional Center for Independent Living in Northern New York. We cover Jefferson, Lewis, and St. Lawrence counties for services. And specifically in Jefferson County, we're lucky to have an employment agency that's connected with the Department of Labor called the Workplace. And through the Workplace, they have a summer employment program that targets youth 16 and up who have never been employed before, but are looking to gain employment for the first time and learn some employment skills. So we partner with the Workplace to help our youth with disabilities find employment for the first time if they're interested. And if they need additional assistance, we're able to help them, self-advocate for accommodations and things like that.
Thank you for sharing. That's a really great opportunity. Do you help folks like write their resumes and stuff like that as well?
Yep. That's all part of our Spark program. Our facilitator is unfortunately out on medical leave right now, but yeah, she assists our youth with resume writing. We do mock interviews and we take them out to one of our local thrift stores and allow them to pick out a outfit that they would wear for an interview. And our thrift store is nice enough to allow the kids to keep that outfit after they're done shopping for that interview outfit. So it's really cool, the relationships that we've built with our community to support our youth with disabilities.
Thank you. That's a really great bonus for them to be able to keep that professional outfit. Yeah, Kayla, did you have something to add?
I just had a question for you, Jennifer. With your Spark program, does it just run in the summertime, or do you have a certain day of the week or month that you guys meet?
So it typically meets from October to May, which is about the length of our school year, because we want to be able to partner with our schools as well. So for New York State, a lot of our youth are, if they're not on a track for a Regents or local diploma, there's alternate pathways to graduation.
Okay.
And so by operating our group during the school year, we're able to partner with our school districts for those youth who need maybe some volunteer hours or some additional hours towards their credential for high school.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really cool. I'd love to talk to you a little more about that another time if you want.
I'll put my email in the chat.
That would be great. Thanks.
Awesome. This is what I love, is when peer support connections are made. Tim is wondering if anybody has tips on building relationships with school districts. Would anybody like to share how they make connections with the school districts, how you got your foot in the door?
I can share a little bit for me. because that's a huge part of what I do with my program is be able to connect with those schools. So a little backstory to my job position. When I first was hired on, they had 6 different youth coordinators in the span of 4 months before I got here. It might have been a little longer, I'm not even sure. And so there's a huge high turnover of youth coordinators, and the schools just didn't have consistency. And so when I was looking through all my old stuff, I had a list of contacts, and it was as simple as just reaching out with an email saying, hey, I'm part of this nonprofit. We have a program for the youth. I'd love to come and talk to you about it and see what kinds of things you are interested in. And that kind of led to meeting with these teachers in person and kind of getting their feedback. And then I also made contact through them of this really nice lady who is over the district of middle schools, intermediate schools, and also high schools in the area. And she and I met together and we kind of talked about this program. She was like, I love this program. Let me invite you to one of my meetings that I've got. And she told me she was going to invite all of the SPED teachers that were in the county that I live in. And so I went with my other youth coordinator and we presented to all of the special education teachers about this program. And we got a couple more schools on board just in making those connections with those teachers. And in addition to that, it's a matter of just doing a little research. So I went online at the beginning of my job, at least, and I looked at different school websites that fall in our area. So we have 9 different counties that our RCI serves, so that's quite a large area. There's quite a few schools. And here in my current county, we have at least 8, I would say, that we have close by. In making these connections and just sending out an email, that has really just been the first step of getting to know them. And then if I don't hear back, I often will call the school and see if I can't talk with them on the phone to see if they have time to be able to meet in person. I'm not sure if that helps at all, Tim, but that's kind of how I started getting the ball rolling, and that's kind of how I've been able to continue to make connections.
Thanks for sharing, Kayla. I also have Crystal mentioned that they're at AIM in Downers Grove, Illinois, and they find that being available as an adult service or community service provider at IEP meetings is a great way to get to know the school teams. That's a really great suggestion. I know that we used to do that as well, is, you know, that transition IEP meeting when they're starting to talk about their transition to community goals. You can be invited into that IEP meeting and help fill some of those gaps, right? So start talking about what housing might look like, what social might look like, what employment might look like, and you can help talk about what's out there in the community. Lois.
Yes, I was just, the way I feel that I got a foot in the door, so to speak, was partnering with community agencies who are involved in the schools, like vocation rehabilitation, tribal, IEP, and the school system. We would have monthly meetings. They're called employment first meetings. And that's how, and then by getting your face out there, your agency out there with the other agencies, we all come together on events to where we can, we have one big event every year. It's called Disability Mentoring Day. And all the agencies come together. You know, we're always invited. So I just wanted to share that's meeting with those other agencies is important too.
Thanks, Lois. I think that's a really great point. Jane.
Thank you. My name is Jane Johnson, and I'm calling from Florida. And I had a question about kids in the child welfare system who are transitioning. they're sort of transitioning on two different tracks if they have disabilities. And what we found is that there's not a real good integration of the child welfare, independent living case managers and programs and services, and independent living, that it's services coming from the Centers for Independent Living, or even from the schools. And in talking to the child welfare folks at the state level, they have asked for help because they don't know disability. They know child welfare and foster care. And for kids with disabilities aging out, there's so many things that have to be addressed, and they haven't had parents helping them along the way because they're obviously in foster care. And what we found is that there's a real lack of knowledge of disability among child welfare folks. So there's a lot of specialty knowledge about child welfare. So I didn't know if any other states have been able to work successfully with the child welfare systems in your states to help identify youth with disabilities who are in foster care and aging out and needing to kind of create a life plan for themselves without parents and without real, family in a lot of cases, but and connect to VR, connect to employment supports and other things that they need.
Thanks, Jane. Great question. Kayla, do you have a answer for it? Yeah.
I kind of had another question that's unrelated to this, but I do know for us in Utah, at least in southern Utah, we're quite a rural area. And I attend a meeting that we call our human case managers meeting, human services case manager meeting, where we meet with different local resources that focus on homelessness, that focus on health issues, that focus on foster care and child welfare. And together we talk about the needs of the community. And I think we have the community health department that comes as well, but we really just talk together about what things we can do. And for us, we do a lot of information referral when it comes to child welfare cases. If there's housing that they need, or if there's employment, we refer them to these different resources that I know of in the case managers meeting. But for us personally, I know that we might talk about a game plan and we might write down a list with them, but a lot of that is information referral from our end, unfortunately.
Yeah, and this is Jane again, and that's kind of the level of where we're at when we do get referrals. There's some information provision, but usually it's too late in the process for that youth. A lot of times they're in Florida, you can stay in child welfare up to 21. So you have room and board and other supports, but they're literally on the precipice of aging out and no one knows what to do. And they need not just affordable housing and employment, but they need accessible housing in a lot of cases, and some behavioral health supports as well. So it's really, it winds up becoming a crisis situation instead of a pre-planned, intentional. So I really feel like these youth get deprived of the services that other youth in foster care are entitled to. Not that we do a great job with anyone in foster care, but it's because it's hard enough, because of how they wound up where they are through no fault of their own. So I just would love to see if we could come up with some, like a strategy for states to get the Centers for Independent Living engaged at the very front end when that independent living plan starts because child welfare uses a lot of the same terminology, but with different meanings, but they have independent living services that are available, but they're not paired up with independent living services for youth with disabilities. But if we could marry them up at, say, like age 13 or 14 and help them talk about career goals, help them understand what's available to them through VR and other supports, so that by the time they are 17 or 18, they have an idea of what their future could look like. They're empowered with an income earning option and that sort of thing. But it doesn't seem like those our programs are integrated because they come out of different federal funding agencies. And I think, and it's really to the detriment of those youth.
I think this is such a great question. Kayla, do you mind if I hold on to your other question, and then, because I want to put it back out. I want to put it back out to the group again. Emily, I saw that your hand was raised. I was wondering, are you going to talk at all about the West Virginia Foster and Adoptive Kinship Parents Network or not? Emily Robinson? I thought I saw your name, your hand raised, maybe not.
So I was not going to talk about that. One of the things that we did at our center is all of us are independent living certified through the Daniel Memorial Institute, which it helps us understand. I learned a lot from it personally. We learned a lot on the foster care aspect, and I think it's opened us up and able to understand and hopefully having a relationship with that entity so that we can have that relationship and ensure that all youth are served. So, and I think going through that certification process has allowed me to understand a little bit more of where they might be coming from. And we were able to, it explained all the laws and everything. It was a pretty good training, in my opinion.
Thank you so much, Emily, for sharing that. If you have any information on it, like a link or anything, would you mind dropping it in the chat?
I will.
Thank you. Awesome. So the other program that I'm gonna, Jane, I'm gonna send you, her name is Marissa Sanders. And she is a person with a disability who is also a foster mom. And I've talked with her a couple of times about she's really trying to build some networks to really start talking about this issue. I think I might just I'm gonna throw her email. I'm just gonna tell her she always says I'm willing to talk with folks. So I'm gonna send her email in here if you want to contact her and see if she might be able to share some information with you. But what I was going to also say is one thing that we did way back in the day when I worked at my CIL is we contacted group home directors, like the foster care group home directors. And my team went in and taught our youth with disabilities curriculum in those group home settings. And we really talked about how whether or not they know it, all of those young folks have disabilities of some sort or kind. And so we would talk to them really about, advocacy, standing up for yourself. What is the ADA? What are some of your rights? But really, it was less about the information we were sharing with them and more about them getting to know us and getting to trust us, because we found that was also a young population that took a little bit more time to build that trusting relationship with. And so, then they started then inviting us to their transition IEP meetings. They started seeing us as an ally, somebody that can help support them. And then once they, aged out, they also started coming into our community center and really staying connected with us in that way. And so I think that's another avenue potentially is reaching out to those group homes where foster care kids might be living. And I know that doesn't include all foster care kids who might be in somebody else's home. But we found that was a group that was also getting less support, right? And so I don't know, that's just another avenue that might work. I don't know how that works these days with the pandemic, if they're more strict about who they let in, or I don't know.
Well, in the group homes, they're not case managers, they're the residential providers. So that is a really good option. But I feel like we need to, to really do this right, we need to go upstream. And it seems like this would be something as a national network of centers for independent living, we could advocate that this is a transition service for a really vulnerable population that currently isn't receiving specialized transition services. And since transition is an unfunded mandate for centers for independent living, seems like we should be able to advocate for dedicated funding so that all of the CILs have the capacity to provide that specialized case management for youth in the foster care, because it is time consuming. You need a person who can go to the schools, who can meet with the foster care case managers of foster parents. it's not a small, you won't have a ton of kids, in your area that need the service, but it is time consuming. And if since transition never did get funded after the WIOA Act passed, this might be an avenue to at least see if there's funding from, the child welfare, the federal child welfare agency to dedicate to this population and recognize that there's already a federally funded network of supports for these youth through the SILs. I don't know. I feel like it's such a vulnerable population, and if they don't transition well, the whole rest of their lives really suffers. Not just their, because of their disability, but because they've got nothing. And in some cases, they haven't had access to appropriate education to even be able to get a job, or a job that meets their aptitude and their abilities. So I don't know.
I think that's a great point, Jane. Does anybody else have anything that they want to share on? Is this a population that you're currently working with? Transitioning from foster care? Yeah, go ahead.
Living. I have been trying to housing transition program for youth in our area, working with the foster care system. There is a group called Taffy that does the IL services with their foster care kids in that age group. So our issue was having to have some funding for setting up the housing, but not to fund the housing and pay for rent. So that's something we're looking at. So I'm working with the local county agency to do that. It's called Chaffee, and they have the ability to find people, but not always to understand the disability.
Oh man, I think we lost you. If you don't mind, would you mind putting the names of those programs again in the chat? While she's coming back, that's great. Does anybody else want to share? Yeah, Shannon.
This has been a really thought-provoking conversation for me. Thank you, whoever brought up foster care, because our one of the therapeutic day schools in our service area is also the primary foster care and adoption agency in the area. So I do pre-ETS training with that school, but we don't focus on that specific population because we also have students coming in from all around, like the counties surrounding us, all get ride buses or vans into this school when their school district kind of says they have needs that extend beyond our ability. So this is interesting to me because I might be able to get in with some of the younger foster care students, and they have really great family advocates that I already have partnerships with. So if you're not involved with any of the more specialized schools in your area, that might be another location where those populations are going to overlap for you to make some contacts.
Great, thank you. Wow, what a great conversation. We've got about 15 minutes left. Does anybody else want to share about foster care programs or have another question for your peers? I'll also say that there has been a lot of good information in the chat, and we'll try to pull some of that out when we send the follow-up email. Lots of folks talking about their programs there. Who else would like to share just a little bit about youth in transition, programs that you're doing? Maybe a program we haven't thought about. Yeah, feel free to share.
So I have more of a question than to share. I know we kind of touched base on it, but when starting up, for me, I had started doing a class, healthy community living, teaching independent living skills. And eventually with COVID, it fell through, and it just really wasn't consistent. And with some of the skills we were teaching, most of the kids wanted to do art or ASL, something that was more fun. So how would you, is there any recommendations you would say? I mean, we did like surveys, but the independent living skills we were teaching, the kids weren't really just kind of taking keen to it. So I guess it was kind of boring to them. So what would you say to just make it more interesting and like grabbing their attention so they would want to do it again?
What age you're working with?
I'm sorry, what was that?
I asked, what age are you working with?
So I did high school. So it's 9th grade to 12th grade. And I guess this was during the summer. So they did more of like fun activities. They didn't want anything doing like thinking it was school wise. And I think that's kind of what it was. It's like it's summer break. They really didn't care for any learning information, just more hands-on or just doing something more fun to them, I guess, because like in the suburbs, there were like just more fun things, but really wasn't specific. So I just kind of took it as doing activities. Like we did once a week, did like either like a bingo or if they had a game they could think of, and they like that. So it's more of like a I guess like an outlet for them to do more fun things instead of like feeling like it's a structured school type of environment.
Try to have some thoughts to kind of help share some of the things that we do. Now, although I am the transitions coordinator, I work with the younger youth, so the 5 to 10 year olds. So I do a different age group aside from this. And my coworker Jennifer does the middle and older youth, which is 11 to 24. With these kind of independent living things, we've also seen that some of these kids are like, we just don't want to sit down and talk about budgeting. We don't want to sit here and learn about all these things. But it's a matter of the way you present the material sometimes, because some of these kids, they just want to have fun. And so something we did just about a month ago that really helped the kids to get excited about budgeting specifically is we did a scavenger hunt where it was kind of like a Price is Right type of activity, but we called it our budget scavenger hunt. We made a list of different items that had pictures of whatever it was. So it was like Chips Ahoy cookies, they had pineapples, they had toilet paper, whatever we could put on there that was just like a basic need. And the first column next to the image, they had to guess what they thought the price was. Okay. And then once we had all the prices, we bussed and took a bunch of cars over to the grocery store. I think we went to a Smith's. And we just looked at, we split them into groups and we took them to the different items to find the prices. And we let them take the lead as to finding the items. We taught them how to look at the signs and how do you tell the difference between the prices and what brands are more expensive than others. And it was really just a learning on the go kind of opportunity for them to be hands-on in the place they needed. And aside from that, I mean, we have kids that have trouble with money value. How do I spend it well? And that we have some severe anxiety. And so there's other activities that I've kind of looked at, like different teachers' lessons that we've looked at. We've looked at Pinterest a lot to see how we can get more creative in budgeting sense. But it is the same with like advocacy and leadership. I've been on a couple, I don't know if you're involved with the April Youth Coordinator call, but I've learned a lot from that meeting specifically too. And I know with some of those other advocacy and leadership things, somebody had mentioned in that call that I was in about doing an escape room with some of those things. And so trying to think outside the box, I would love to do an escape room, but I haven't quite gotten everything put together for it, but I've done a lot of research. And that's another fun way to get them involved in some of these independent living skills while also giving them a chance to have fun. You know, it's kind of fun because as a youth coordinator, you have a lot more options in terms of how fun you can make it while also maintaining that education piece of independent living.
Thanks, Kayla, for sharing that. I'll also add, back in the day when I used to do a youth program, we used to make up our own money for some of our youth teen center. We called them Yoda bucks. And you know, what we would do is like, let's say that you cleaned up after the meeting for us, you wiped down the tables or whatever, and you would get like 20 Yoda bucks. And then what we would do is like, you know, if one of them needed a ride after one of the events, they forgot to line up a ride ahead of time or something, you could pay for a ride with Yoda bucks from one of our staff members. You know, we would have like snacks and things at the meetings, and you know, you could get something extra special with Yoda bucks, and so it was just kind of a fun way to, it wasn't real money, so it's not like, it's a little lower stakes, but it's a way to kind of learn budgeting. Yeah, Lois. How'd I say
Yes,
your-
and I was just thinking, especially for the older group too, and even the younger, not elementary, but the middle school and older age groups, they all seem to love video games. So, you know, if you had like a video learning game where they could learn through the videos with, you know, prizes and et cetera, I thought that was pretty cool.
Thank you. And on that line, Shannon says they have gamification type apps. I'm like, can I read that? Yeah. Gamification type apps for chores, and using something like that to model making up their own chore routine.
And it's also like, it's a kind of like habit tracking. So you can include like healthy lifestyle stuff, like how much water did I drink? Did I eat a vegetable today? So they can kind of have different segments and different worlds, if you will, for like household and personal life and different things. And you get a character. And basically when you're consistent, you get to like level up your character. Kind of like I guess if you really need something to keep you in it, it might help.
That's cool. Great. Any other thoughts on ways to make learning fun? Maybe not just even for budgeting. Does anybody have ideas on other skills that you can make kind of interactive and?
I have all sorts of ideas, but my email is in the chat, so you guys can email me if you want those. I think
Awesome.
Alan had something to say. I don't know if he's.
Go for it. Alan. Yeah, Alan. Hit us, take us home, Alan. We got 5 minutes left.
Thank you, Mary. So I just wanted to share regarding the question. So I guess my suggestions and what have worked for us, as far as like if you're barely starting a group, we always like to start with again, something that will bring the use to us. And of course, they want to do something fun, right? Especially if your program is host during the week and they already been to school, they don't want to go to another program and kind of continue that, I guess, like the same routine, right? Kind of feeling like they're at school. So what we done is we done like LOL or live out loud. And that's where we have different options for them to do just to kind of have fun and socialize. And so within that program, we either have board games like Uno, dominoes, apple to apples, you know, stuff like that. Then we have like a karaoke session that if they like to sing and like karaoke, they can do karaoke. We also have like arts. And at one point we did have like a video game section where they can play video games if that's what they wanted to. So I would recommend that if you're really gonna start a group. And if you are looking more like for how
If you are
to
looking
include a activity, we try
for how
to
to include an activity, comma.
we try to include icebreakers at the beginning of the lesson to kind of get them started, you know, and involved in that conversation. And we try to during the lesson we try to do activities, so it just doesn't feel like it's all talk and talk and talk, right? They can also do some type of activities, and that usually brings them in and gets them interested in the lesson or topic that you're trying to talk to them about. And my last tip is that depending on how long you have your group for, in our case, we have them on Saturdays from 11 to 3:30. So what we try to do is we try to do a half day of like teaching, like, you know, giving them a lesson, and the other half of fun stuff, right? So we can either have live out loud or we have our improv improv group. So we try not to make it all day just about learning and learning and learning. We try to split it in half, where first part can be about learning and second part can be about having fun and enjoying the time. So that's all I'll add to that.
Thank you so much, Alan. Always love to hear your voice. And can you guys believe it? We're almost to the top of the hour here. I dropped a link to our valuation in the chat. Please feel free to fill that out. This transition series is only a 5-session series. Again, we've done youth transition, guardianship, nursing home transition, transition from incarceration. I don't remember what we're doing next month. I'll be honest. I have to go and look, but I think that this is something that we might try to continue next year if folks think that it's useful. I think the topic of transition is so vast that it's one that, you know, might deserve its own series. So thank you all for joining us today. For those who have registered for this call, we will send recordings and the transcripts. And please do fill out that evaluation. I will drop my email in the chat for those to grab really quick if you have follow-up questions, or if you didn't get to share about one of your programs and you would like me to send it out to the group, I would really love for you to share any kinds of flyers, links, anything that you think others would find useful. My favorite part about peer support is that we're all here to support one another. And if we work smarter and not harder, I think we can get a lot more accomplished. So thank you all again, and hey, have a great rest of your week. Oh, and Alan dropped his in the chat as well. I'll leave the call open for just a few moments if anybody wants to grab those 2 emails. Thank you, everybody. Have a great one.